Bob Ragan has an enduring love and fascination with shells. And he has had this since he was a young child. Now, as an adult, he does more than collect shells. He shares them with others for their beauty. So whether right now they're far from the seashore, they have a new purpose, and Bob has given the shells a new life. In honor of this, Bob, I wore something that's not made by one of you, I'm sorry to say, but it's my seahorse. Bob Ragan.
Thanks. How about you? All right. Can you, could you just bring it all the way around for me? Yeah. That's perfect. There we go. Okay. Yeah, if you could, yeah.
Could someone try to get the back there? And it looks pretty good.
I'm thinking from far back. Okay. It should be okay. Yeah. That's the other one. Well, introduction. Here I am in Cleveland, Ohio. Okay. There weren't very many beautiful seashells in Lake Erie. You know, so I bought a lot back then and was collecting. But even here, you can see I was already starting to do some craft work with them. You know. I go down to Sanibel Island. It's my home away from home, and this is just an example of the variety of shells you can find on Sanibel. Sanibel Island. It's off of Fort Myers. It's considered one of the top. It's within the top 5 shelling beaches of the world. So I mean, I will go down there and spend 10 days, and I will ship back over 100 pounds of shells. Yeah, you have to know when to go with the tides, everything else. Here are some. I love the smaller things. I spend more time looking for the smaller things now to use for some more of my intricate work. That was just a one-day's catch down there. Okay, those are all univalves there, and then there's all the scallops I picked up in one day. Wow. You know, again, when you can hit the storms right, you can hit the tides right, it's amazing what's down there. And that's part of my personal collection on my bookcase in my bedroom. And then this is my stock in my largest bedroom at home. So I stopped calling it a hobby a long time ago. But they're all organized, you know, in different boxes. I have different varieties of shells. I spend a lot of time sorting sizes. So I bag them, you know, just try to organize them so I can remember where they are. That's in itself a task. Now these are some of the more specialized shells that I purchase, and I'm specifically doing these to make my arch of shells, and that's why I want to show you how I make the big swags that I sell in my booth. I start with a wire form. Now I used to get these forms from AC Moore, but they stopped making them. I mean, I have had that happen 4 or 5 different times where I found something I could use and then they stopped making it, right? It's a pain. It's what?
It's like lipstick.
Yeah, it's like, you know.
You get the color you want, they stop making it.
There you go. I wouldn't know about that, but that's okay. But I had these forms made by a wire company on the West Coast. So they're extremely sturdy. So I start off with the wire here. I want to center it and put the wire piece right back here, and I start from this level right here to start to build the swag. Now I put these underneath to lift the scalp off the table, so that when it's on the wall, they won't be resting directly on the wall itself. Now, a dear friend of mine, he and his wife are celebrating their 35th wedding anniversary, so he commissioned for me to make one of these. And the 35th wedding anniversary is coral, right? So he asked if we would make one. So what I did in the middle here is a beautiful piece of mushroom coral. Yeah. No, I bought them. Yeah. So I hired a company on the West Coast to make them for me. So yeah. So and basically just to make that form, they charged $70 just to work on the design. You know, then I had to buy them on top of that. So, but they're worth it to me. So you can see here I'm starting it with, you know, doing the edge work here. I want to keep that line going with it. So I use these spindle shells to extend that a little bit. And here's the top. So I typically use the chamber nautilus shells that are pearlized, and they're cut in half. And then I use these polished pearl oysters for this one. That's a gold lip oyster.
Are you polishing them?
No, I buy them polished. Yeah,
Perhaps we can save the questions until the end.
that's good. Okay. So here I'm starting to put the pieces together. Now you can see I put the second row of scallops in here. Normally with my work, I put the larger pieces at the bottom and then smaller pieces going up. But with these swags, it works better if the larger scallops are over the smaller scallops. So I'm starting to see, I'm pulling shells out, trying to decide, okay, what's going to look best in this swag. So here I decided to go ahead initially and to put this one in here, but then I didn't like it. Now, this is a different swag that I was making, but I wanted to show this, that, you know what this is? That's an embossing gun. And so I use the embossing gun to melt because I use high temp glue gun. Well, the embossing gun will melt the glue so I can pull the shell off if I want to change it. I just want to put that in as an example. So here you can see, I decided this shell looks better, and I like it because it gave depth to it. But you can see I'm building now from that back coming forward. And I'm just slowly adding shells. Now, it's not very colorful on this screen, unfortunately, but that's a brilliant green. So the pink murex is always my standard shell in the middle. But see, I put the green in there to give a little contrast of color, so it catches your eye. So now you can see I'm starting to add some shells right in this row here to see what works. And again, I like using, see that was a green shell, that was a green shell. So it kind of keeps that pattern going across. So I'm looking at, you know, this is a contrasting color. These are marble cones and they're very distinct. So I'm watching how colors work together. And then see, these are striped shells. So again, not only am I looking for size, but I'm looking for texture, I'm looking for color as I'm doing these. So here I started adding another shell in the middle here. I added that's a textile cone there. That's the other side, keeping it symmetrical. But then, see, I added these two shells, right? So that's a very brilliant purple. So it added a little splash of color. And then here's the yellow, again, that's not basically in here, but it sort of matches the pearl oyster back here. And then see, I've added these large heart cockles here. Now to get those to work, I have to chop off the back of it. So I use a Dremel and cut it so that it can lay flat on there. Otherwise, it's going to sing out at an odd angle. So here's the end here, end piece. And whoops. Let's go back. Come on, there you go. So these are sundial shells, and these are extremely large. I've never seen them that large before, but when I was on Sanibel Island, I went to a place called She Sells Seashells. Now, normally, I go through my wholesalers to buy my shells, all right? But I had never seen these so big. And I just paid regular price for these that they were selling them for because I have not found those anywhere else. But they fit perfectly on the end here. And you can see, I'm adding smaller shells in here now into this. So here's the coral part. So see, I put a lot of coral in here, and I'm going to show some slides of other swags I've made. I don't normally use the coral like that, but again, because this was the wedding anniversary, I wanted to put a lot of coral. I don't buy huge, beautiful pieces of coral and then break them. I don't want to do that. So what I do is some of these places, they get broken in shipping and all that, and I buy bags of broken coral to be able to use. This is a beautiful shell here. See, these are all pearlized shells I use here, again, that just give that highlight to the swag itself. So there you can see a close-up where you can see all the coral I put in there. And that's the back of it. And I put a ton of hot glue in there, right? I mean, you could see here, you can see how much is along the back. And I forgot to mention too, in that first slide, I do this on wax paper. So it's on a card table, it's on wax paper, but it doesn't harm the card table, right? And if you notice too, what I did too, I put a grid so that I can see, how high this is on both sides. So I want them to be symmetrical. And then I line that back with felt. Now there's the finished product. Filling it all in. See, a lot of little shells go in here to fill it in. And there's also a lot of pieces of a little bit of coral in there as well. Here's another swag that I did. Now see, I typically use the big white scallops here, and that gives a nice feel to it. Now here's when I used large keyhole sand dollars for it. And you can see here, I'm using shells here instead of the coral. There's another one I did, a different variety. What I want to talk about now is my passion is making sailors' valentines. In the 1800s, sailors would stop in Barbados as a final step before they went back to England or New England. And there is a shop on Barbados that made these sailors' valentines. And what sailors did is they would typically buy these and then take them back to their sweethearts. You can see on this one, it's 1847. Think of me, see, so there's a lot of times there's these sayings in here, okay? And this sailor's valentine is in very good shape. It's an antique, and that probably is around the $15,000 mark on these, okay? It just depends on the intricacy. That's a collection that someone has, and that's probably worth over $100,000. Wow. I mean, they're all, I mean, that one is just huge. That would have to be, probably $30,000 right there. But you can see they made flowers on them. They put them on these glass domes. What else is down here? Little things like this, the boxes. But that was the step. The sailors would stop and bring those on the way home. I need to get a better picture. This was my first sailor's valentine that I made. And I don't have the glass on top so it wouldn't reflect. I have to have the person that bought it from me send me a picture. But those are all individual shell flowers in here. And then in the back, there's all these tiny little shells. You'll see in more detail in the next slide of the work I do. And that's a better picture, but you can see there's all these tiny shells. So there's close to 800 or 900 shells in that box, if not more. I mean, each one of these flowers have 50 to 60 shells in them. And then you put all these tiny little shells in here. And then here's another box. And see, I'm buying these boxes. They're beautiful. I mean, they're handcrafted. They're incredible. And just a little side note, I had these on sale at my show. This one I think I had priced at $125. This one's at $130, and they didn't sell. On eBay, this one sold for over $200, and this one sold for $198. Because there's people that know what these are, and they collect them. This was a very special one I made. For a man in London. He commissioned me to make this for his wife for their anniversary. And he's a man I buy shells from. And he sells to a lot, there's a group of us that are making these valentines again, so he sells a lot of shells to them. But he, sometimes these can get way overpriced. And for the quality that's in there, and he just fell in love with it. And his wife cried when she opened the package and saw it, But these blue arches here, those are all individual sea urchin spines. So there's probably about 40 spines in each one of those blue arches right there. You can see all the tiny little shells I'm using to fill the background in. And these are called spirula. This is from a squid that when it dies, it floats to the surface of the ocean. And so you'll find these on the beaches, like in the Caribbean, in the tropics, you'll find these. But these, it adds that special touch here to this.
What are the blue ones? They look like geodes.
Which are these here?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are limpets from Mexico. They're a special color. That's one of the few shells you find that's a teal color. It's one of my favorites to use. So I've taken these then and expanded. I found these teak boxes on eBay. I got them I think for $1 a piece. Wow. And then they were solid cover. But I had a woodworker in the guild, and what he did is he took out the middle section, and then I put a piece of glass underneath it. So that was nice. This form here, I mean that's a Pottery Barn piece that I found at Goodwill for $3 or $4, right? So again, I'm always looking for different boxes and things I can use, and I frequent the thrift stores a lot because I do find things there that I can use that I'm not going to find anywhere else. These are what I call my Wedgwood boxes. So they're probably in each of these individually, I would say there's over 100 shells in there. The background is it's that typical blue that they use. I'll do them in a rose color, and then I'll use them doing a black background as well. And then this was a beautiful box I made back a number of years ago. Again, see, I'm just looking for different things I can do. Here is my boat shadow boxes, and again, all these variety of shells I put in there that I can't use anywhere else in some of my work, and these are very popular too. And again, I found this form at AC Moore, and they're getting rid of it. It's a wooden form. I think I bought those for $3.50 a piece on sale, but then I can't find them again, right? So I'm just always looking for new things I can do and make. These you can get at A. Seymour right now. They're hot. They're just a wood box, but people love when I put all the different shells in there. And then here's another little example of my work for like a Valentine work. And that's what my living room couch looks like when I'm in full production. So, and that's it.
Questions?
Question? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. No, I buy them cut. So yeah, my condo neighbors would be very upset if I tried to bandsaw those shells in my condo. Yeah. And I buy a lot of things in bulk. So, they're shipped just in a bag, sent in a box. And so there's a lot of breakage that's in there. So I use a Dremel to kind of, sand them down, the points and things like that. I'm able to get beautiful shells that are defects that collectors won't buy and I can hide the defects in my work. So you get the color and the variety that's in there. So I have here, I brought one of my swags in. And unfortunately, I thought that I had a slide. No, don't pick that up, yeah. But you can pick up the other one next to it, the box. I thought I had a slide. So that is one of my boxes that I made. If you come up and take a close look at it, there's a lot of detail work in that. Yeah.
Do you use hot glue? That's your major adhesive?
Yep. And it's high temp hot glue. That makes the shells really adhere to it. What I have to watch for is, so I could store things in a basement storage bin that I have in my condo building, but it's not heated. And so the shells, if they're on masonite or wood backing, which I typically use, they're fine. But on those wire forms, the metal cools faster than the glue around it, and so they can become a little bit loose. So I don't like keeping them in a real cold place. And of course, I make a lot of ornaments as well. I didn't show them up here, but I tell people, do not store these in your attic. Because if they store it with an unheated attic in the summertime, that's all going to melt. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I know Philippines. Most of the shells I use are from the Philippines and from India. So eBay's been really good to me. I have connected with some great sellers on eBay that, at this point, I just write to them, they offer me discounts for the stuff that's listed, But there are a lot of distributors. There's 3 or 4 distributors in the States I use as well. So there is Joyce's Shells down in Bay St. Louis, outside of Louisiana. There's Darlene Shells in Florida. There is also, where else do I get from? There's probably I think about 4 or 5 distributors I buy them from. Sometimes, sometimes you can't always get the shells. I like being able to go actually into the shops and buying them because they will have things there that they don't have in their catalogs. They just get an odd shipment of a bag of shells, or they get a particular variety in that's got a different color to it. So as much as I can, I try to get down to Florida every couple of years or so because I'm able to buy directly from these people, which is really helpful. Yeah.
This is kind of an odd question, I think. Your day's collection of your scallops
Yeah.
or the other shells, are you effectively denuding the beach for that day? Or
No, Sanibel is loaded. You have to be there at the right time. But the last trip I was down there, it's one before that, when the tide comes in just right, you will get ridges of shells that are 2 to 3 feet high and about 20 or 30 feet long. And the shells on Sanibel are so good because the Gulf of Mexico is a slope, so they don't get broken up. See, on the East Coast and the West Coast, you have the Continental Divide. The shells have got to go over a lot of things before they get to the shore and they get broken up. But on Sanibel, you're getting perfect specimens coming on there. So, I've just walked, and what I do is you walk the whole thing and then you start digging what's underneath it. It can be really amazing, really amazing. Yeah.
so do you have the infamous Sanibel scoop?
Yes. Yes. I take a lot of ibuprofen before I go out. My typical day down there, I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful down there because the one side of Santa Barbara, most of it is a nature refuge. You know, so you have a lot of birds coming down into that area. But what I typically do is I go out before dawn with a flashlight, and I'm not the only loony one out there. There's others with me looking for shells. And I'll walk the beach for like about 2 or 3 hours, go in and have some yogurt or something, come back out, walk again for a couple hours, go in and have lunch, go out, you know, maybe go grab something out in one of the shops, and I'll come back and basically I will walk for a couple hours till the sun sets. And it's just, you know, I have birds following me. I mean, it's incredible. I had an egret follow me for about half an hour, just as I was collecting, you know. But the bird life, it's just a beautiful, beautiful place to visit. Yeah. Yeah.
We have a wagon that you put them all in?
No, I have a mesh bag that it goes around my shoulder, you know. Yeah, they do. That's why I have to go back, you know, and dump off and then go back out again. Yeah. I mean, that one big shell pile I found, I filled that bag probably 4 or 5 times that day. I mean, I just kept going back and just, you know, taking them, you know. But see, a lot of those shells, that was the early Bob work. I used a lot of the shells from Santa Barbara that I don't use anymore. You know, the scallops I use down there. And the last time I was down there, I had such a huge collection, I just gave it to somebody, you know. There's a school teacher that does, she makes little bags of shells for education. And I just gave her everything I collected, you know. And she was just thrilled. Because she was probably, she and her husband were probably in their 70s or even in their 80s. And for them, they couldn't go out as much to collect like I could. And they were just thrilled when I gave them to them. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've got 2 questions. The first one is, how do you clean them so that there's no
Odor, yeah.
Right.
Well,
And the second one, and then you can
Yeah.
answer both of them, is there's no problem with, I mean, if you go into a forest, you cannot take a twig out.
right.
What about on the beaches?
So on Santa Barbara, you cannot collect live shells. So it's got to be all dead shells. Yeah. At one point you could, but not anymore. Yeah. So everything I collect down there is already dead on the beach. Yeah. To clean them, it just depends on how bad they are. You know, basically you can soak them in bleach. That typically works. You want to watch on certain shells. You can't do that because it'll take away the gloss on the surface. But now that's if you're a collector. But see, for my work, I spray them with a clear acrylic spray. So it's non-yellowing. It brings that gloss back. So you have to just know what technique to use to get rid of that smell. And sometimes, no matter how hard you try, it still has that scent into it, you know, because the mollusk's liver is the thing that's right at the apex of the shell. And if you don't get that liver out, it just reeks. So, you know, sometimes you can't get it pulled fully out, and it'll have a pretty bad smell. They say that one of the best places to find shells is, what's just north of Florida? Is it Georgia, right? That they say the best place for shells is right at some of the rest stops in Georgia, because they start to smell enough that people dump the shells and they want to take them home smelling. So, okay. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.